While I am waiting for her to connect to audio, I really just want to introduce her. Allison Snowden. Dr. Allison Snowden is a renowned healer, coach, medical intuitive with 15 years of experience training thousands of clients and students from around the world. And I am one of her students. I've taken 3 Theta healing classes and I have loved every minute of it. The classes are both a way to heal and learn how to heal others. And I love that. I mean, they're so immersive. We talked in this last class about how all of us were sleeping so much better after class. So when you get into this healing mode of really accessing, that those deeper layers of healing, your life changes. But I have interviewed Allison and she shared her profound near-death experience on my channel. And so you can see that here and other places. Today, we're really going to talk about manifesting your best life, really fast tracking your healing and how she's able to do that with clients. I mean, you really are kind of a miracle worker. That's why I keep taking your classes, is because when I'm in the class, I just see how you change the energy and how the impossible really becomes possible for a lot of people with both physical healing, deep childhood wounds, and you're trauma informed in a way that I think many of us who have been gaslit or experienced spiritual bypass around the idea of healing have really, really appreciated your work. So what I'd like to do is just first ask you, the first question is, the deep work is important. And I know that when people want the life that they want, they just want it tomorrow. They don't want it, next month or next week. But what is the greater importance of doing that deeper work with you, other healers, and really getting to a place where you can manifest and can be in a better flow?
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Trisha, for having me on. It is such an honor to be here and sharing this. And I really feel and know, like within every fabric of my being, that every single person's healing, have you stopped the video?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Anyway, I think
so we'll go again. So, every individual's healing is so incredibly important, to yourself, to your body, to your family, and to the world. It is my feelings when I was in my near-death experience that really inner awakening and inner healing, and each of us shifting and healing and embodying love and our dreams and our desires will shift the planet and create a wave of healing that everyone can enjoy collectively. But we have to do the inner work. And so with me, you can find the full story of my NDE. I did, I think, an hour long with Trisha and some other people. So I go in depth on what happened. The thing is in my NDE, I had this whole awakening experience of unconditional love, that is who we all are. This is, that is our true nature. However, my NDE happened in the context of violence, of trauma. And afterwards, I went through a lot of trauma with surgeries. My body was badly broken. And so I, started to heal. And one of the things that really impacted me, or I refused to have impact, was when I was talking to the MDs, the doctors, and they were saying I was never going to run. I was going to be in pain the rest of my life, and I just needed to get accepted and get used to it. And every time I thought about that, it got me depressed and sad. And this hadn't even happened. I was 16 years old. So from my NDE, I just had this innate feeling that anything is possible when you're in that unconditional love, when you're connected to the divine. And so I refused to take on the limiting belief that, I was going to be in pain the rest of my life. And I, internalized that anything was possible, that my healing was possible, and it is happening. And so what I would do was I would, turn in and run and remember and rehearse how it was like to run, how it was like to just be pain-free. And I would keep on remembering this and rehearsing this. I was 16 years old. No one was doing this, talking about this at this time in 99. But what that was doing is that was rehearsing and telling my brain that this is happening, this is the future. And what happens is when someone, an expert, tells us something, we can either take it in and make that true to us, and or you could do what I did and reject it and reaffirm your own reality. So it really makes me sad that if I didn't do that, I probably would have not had a complete healing. Some people are like, oh, well, Allison, you had a complete healing because you had an NDE. No. Everyone has this type of power and this type of ability to self-heal. We've just all been brainwashed and programmed that we can't. And what happens is when we accept something as true, even if it isn't quote unquote true, it's just one of the many possibilities, it becomes our reality. So we internalize that, we feel it, then. So we'll just go through an exercise, Tricia. So if I would have taken on that identity as I was always going to be in pain, guys, my reality, the 3D reality of my body was really bad. I was declared dead, bones were crushed. They had never seen, such horrific horrific injuries on a living person. So, everyone was like, oh, you're lucky to be alive. Don't hope too much. Don't think you're going to heal. But here's what happened. I didn't. And because I accepted this was possible and I felt it in my heart and all levels, I went at it. I did the actions. I was happy. I knew I was going to get there. And there were some up and downs where I would have pain and not, but eventually I manifested a pain-free life. And I also have manifested, other miracle healings. So I'm not special. We all have this within us. So your healing is a manifestation. Healing from a chronic disease is a manifestation. Getting the relationship is a manifestation. Having a career goal, money goals are manifestations. So why do people try and they don't get it, or they give up? And it's because of the unhealed traumas that are running the show and the unconscious programming. So 90 to 95% of our perceptions, our moods, our thoughts are programmed from when we're in utero till 7. And then add that on top of it. Of course, after that, well, in that period, we're in a theta brain state. So we just absorb things and it just becomes us. So after developmentally, when we are in after 7, we're not in the theta, but we're still impressionable, but just not as much as when we're in a theta brain state. Add on top of that, trauma is very impactful. The neurobiology of how trauma is stored in the brain is different, and it's more anything that has a lot of pain, that's emotional, social, or physical, is stored at a different way. And with trauma, you don't recall it, you don't consciously recall it. It'll just be there. So you're not in conscious control. You're not in conscious control with your subconscious programming, and we all have it. So what's happening is people are getting discouraged, are getting sad, saying things aren't working for me, but it's just they're doing it the wrong way. They're not looking and shifting the programming and doing the deep inner work. And so when you do the deep inner work in an effective way, you get results very quickly. You feel differently, physical things shift. And, when you feel different and your energy is different and you embody that you love yourself and good things are happening, you walk with that energy, and then also you do the actions, and other people, guys, everyone reads everyone's energy. It's usually though at a just unconscious level. So I just want everyone to get really excited because this is such an amazing time. Your dreams, your healing matter so much. When you heal, you heal like your family line, you heal the community. We are so powerful. And I just feel like this is such a cool time to be alive because we can really.
I have a quick question, and this may be a little bit off topic, but I'm curious only because I know someone whose son was in a major car accident and he had a brain injury. So how do you work with people who have brain injuries, you know, that's part of their healing?
Well, I mean, it's a case by case. So everyone is in their own paradigm. So the first question is will he heal? And the first thing is that most people internalize the doctor's opinions. And I'm saying, you know, obviously you have to follow your doctors or you have that choice. I'm not saying do not follow your doctor, but any healing is possible. The thing though, that really determines our healing is our actions, and also our belief. And so, yeah, like I had some brain trauma. It wasn't like I lost the ability to, you know, move my hand at a certain speed. And also I couldn't speak as clearly. So that healed, but a lot of times, so yes, anything can be healed.
And for people who are just coming up against, you know, like an issue, maybe from childhood, and they're just repeating these patterns over and over, what I've found with theta healing is like some inner freedom. You know, if you can get to a core issue, then finally you start shifting some of those things that have been like a roadblock for a long time. And sometimes they shift miraculously, you know, almost instantly. And sometimes there's a lot of work to continue to do. So tell me, you know, like some of your ideas around that.
Yeah. So here's the thing is that you have to reprogram your, you know, currently in our culture, we do talk therapy. I think talk therapy has like a value, but talking about something is not changing a belief. And it also is not healing trauma. And most of our thoughts, you know, negative thoughts, you know, negative perceptions of ourself, the future, all of that is rooted from a core trauma or a core identity wound. And from that identity, that shifts how you see yourself and others. So when we in theta healing find that and release that, you feel like a different person. You're like, oh my God, like I hated this person for, you know, 5 years. That was my own like trauma and resentment and programs playing off of me and them. And you are not your programs. You are this, you know, like we talk about, Trisha, like we are this light, this love. But guys, like we're in a human body, we're in a brain. Our brain is here to keep us alive. It doesn't care about your manifestations. It doesn't care that you want to be happy or that you want to be in love. It wants to protect you. And so, for example, so when you're younger, you're in theta and you just take everything in and, you know, you don't really understand that your parents are people. And so you take everything very personally and those become our identities. So think about this, guys. I was born in 83. So what if I hadn't updated my core identity since, you know, 1990? But my adult brain has all of these things, but I keep on running into these things, these identities, or these fear of abandonment or other fears that I can't really articulate, but it sabotages me, you know? Or so it's like everyone is updating their iPhone, but no one's updating their subconscious programming. And from your subconscious programming and your unhealed traumas, our unhealed traumas are like blind spots. And a lot of times we can't even identify them, and because they are so real to us, right? Like certain people, you know, we intellectually know we need to love ourselves, but why isn't everyone who reads a self-help book that says to love self, to understand why we don't, why doesn't everyone get instantly healed? Right? Because you're getting it from, you're not in theta state, so you're not in a brain state to receive it and to change your programming. And you're understanding that from your intellectual mind, your conscious mind. And that is not running the show. Most of your root beliefs that are really there and your identity is already rooted, especially as you get older. So the great thing is that you can get into theta, you can change, and we do that systematically through theta healing, through all of those classes. And you can also, get in theta on your own and, also program. However, theta is like theta healing, and the process of theta healing and the classes are so divinely like, outlined in the process. It just makes transformation so easy. And it gives you, you transform from that experience. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and I can say something about that too, like healing other people in the class and watching their healings happen. Like we had such a profound healing. I had a little bit of a block. Like it makes total sense for me to use theta healing for emotional wounds. A lot of my clients have had years of therapy. I have to, and it's like those blocks, theta healing starts really changing those beliefs. But physical healing, it was hard for me to not think that I needed a long plan, a long journey, but to really manifest a moment of physical healing in the class, just one afternoon when one woman was sitting differently, my pain was gone, that's miraculous.
Well, and so it's like you ask, where did that belief come from, right? So, like we all have beliefs about healing, about school, about money. We all have these unconscious programs, and you just are like, oh, well, that's how it is. But when you start talking to people, they have different beliefs and they're like, oh, I never have experienced, that's not my reality. These patterns or these beliefs can be shifted. So like, because I had such an extensive, physical injury when I was after my NDE, and I just started to do, I was like, oh, this is easy. I can heal this, and I internalized that. Physical healing for me it was super easy. So I'll tell, like, I had a stem cell shot that went, that got infected, and it really ruined my knee. And they were like, you need surgery. And I was like, no, I don't. And I was in a ton of pain, and I did a lot of healing on my emotional wounds around that incident. And then also that was beyond that incident, about fear of moving forward. So I've been at an MRI lately, but I have zero pain. And I was like at a 10 out of 10, and they were saying to do a huge orthopedic surgery. So, really what limits us is our beliefs, and what really limits us are our unconscious beliefs. So like the ones that you don't even question, right? You're just like, this is who I am. This is who it is. This is how money is. And guys, our subconscious, as we get older, like it doesn't want to change. And here are the problems that I see. People will then be angry at themselves. I had that negative self-talk, or, like they self-sabotage, and they, beat themselves up or something like that. But it's like, you can't change it by yelling at your subconscious programming or getting upset. So, that's a roadblock where people get disenfranchised. And so they're doing it the wrong way. Then that's reinforcing that maybe they're not worthy enough, or that nothing works for them. And then it's just a downward spiral.
And how do they get out of that? So like I've seen people jump on the manifestation ride, they watch Law of Attraction, they read a few books, or they think they really understand it, and they there is something to extreme concentration. So if you concentrate very hard and you use all your energy, you can like move towards a goal, even if you're not consciously using manifestation. You can get a degree, you can, get the car that you want, you can get, like there's a lot of things that people can force into reality, with extreme concentration and work. But explain how it could be easier. Like sometimes people tell me they've
Well,
manifested a certain person in their life, and I don't think you can do that. And your explanation of that was really good.
Well, there are people on YouTube and teachers that actually do teach. I'm actually really surprised. There are people on YouTube that actually, you can get a person, manipulate someone else's reality by your own frequency. And I mean, my personal ethical and also spiritual motto is sovereignty. We are free beings, and I don't want someone to try to manipulate my free choice. And then I won't do that to other people. And, in theta healing, that's why we always ask, do you want to change this? And we have to get the yes, because some people are maybe happy where they're at. Maybe they're okay with being in pain. But what happens is yeah, like some people can manifest a lot of things, but guess what? That there's people who win the lottery and, everyone's like, oh, money, if I had $50 million, I would just be so happy. Actually, you wouldn't. Money, that's a lie, your ego. Yeah, it can alleviate a lot of stress. I totally understand that. But a lot of people who win the lottery are actually lose it and then are even worse off. So this whole lie that our ego says that, if I was, if this person loved me, or if I was this an external relationship, then I would be happy. Actually, no, your unhappiness and also your inner world is programmed by your inner world. So once you really fully step into your power and know that you're the source of your reality and your feelings, and that you can feel good no matter what, then you're really internally aligned. Then you can work on your beliefs and programs and go forward. And, it's I guess some people that just don't do any of the inner work or do any of the hidden emotional wounds, maybe they'll manifest, a job, or, they'll manifest a job because they feel worthless. So they have to prove. So they get all of these accolades, do all of these things, but inside they're empty because that inner childhood wound, it was motivated from an empty place and from a wounded place. And they think once they get all these things, they're going to be happy, but then they get it and then they feel worse off. There's a lot of examples of people who have done amazing things and they're like, this is it. I still feel the same. So my thing is that really, we are so infinitely powerful. We create a lot of the things, and we learn deeply about that in theta healing training. And we can be happy despite externally, if people love, despite it, external, the sources within our own frequency. But childhood wounds, our inner wounded child, just wants to be loved and accepted, and people who have neglect, abuse, or dysfunction. And guys, it's very rampant. And guys, you don't even have to be abused to even have bad programming. Disney, maybe your parents were working a lot and then you still felt abandoned by the job. Was that the truth? Was that the highest truth? No, but when you were little, you felt like you didn't get that attunement. And so you internalized that. And so you're like, I'm not worthy. And you go to therapy, you try to talk about it, you analyze the the dynamics, then you say your affirmations, but you still feel it's this feeling. And that's what we handle in and heal in theta healing. So you feel this completeness and this aliveness from a holistic place. You're not trying to grab onto people or achievements to fill it, because that's not going to do it, because you are amazing, extraordinary as it is, but your programming has hypnotized you and brainwashed you that you're not. And so that's how people get on that wheel. And I'll share a story. I had a learning disability when I was younger. And so, I had that programming, I was less than. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to prove it. And it motivated me. But it was never, I never felt smart enough because and then I got great grades, high ACT scores, high IQ, but like that intellectual, like, oh, I got a 36 on, that part of my ACT, that objective reality, like didn't fill that emotional wound and that programming I created when I was like 6 years old and didn't understand anything and couldn't read and felt incompetent. So, these things get moving and they come on a life of their own, and intellectually understanding or talking about it doesn't heal it. In fact, sometimes it reaffirms it and scratches it more. And that's what I found with talk therapy. And now the research is coming out that trauma is not recalled in the same way a normal memory is. So, so it gets unconsciously triggered and we don't even know it's happening. And you can't heal that through intellectual talking. It has to be a somatic and an energetic, emotional aspect. And theta healing is it's my favorite energy healing technique to really heal it. So here's the thing is with if you've had childhood trauma, like it is in science, it is that, people that have had, more adversity, have, higher chances of all chronic disease and all mental illnesses. And, so it's like, how do we work with that and heal that? And that's through the programming and through theta, you can really reverse this and not internalize that, or even just, unconsciously struggle with this. Because, I know for me, after having my near-death experience and being in that unconditional love, and I was downloaded with all these amazing things I wanted to do with my life, and then just feeling also at the same time holding the consciousness of complete fear and terror because I was so violated and my brain was just trying to protect me. I would be, just living my life. I would be safe, and a smell or a noise would just then hijack my brain to I'm not safe, to that part when I was, run over by a motor vehicle. And so what that means is unhealed traumas are vibrating in the present time, and they affect how you perceive yourself and others. And it's very distorted, but very real. Like it is very real. And so it keeps on perpetuating. And to me, that was devastating. Despite how much I tried and healed on certain aspects of my life, it was just, it was like my brain wouldn't let go of it. So this is a key to really heal that and release that grips of those programs from trauma and from early childhood that are very insidious. Like they're hard to get away.
So I'm going to loop back to the original question about manifestation and say a few things. It seems like inner happiness is really the key, whether you're in a relationship, whether you're not, whether you're working towards your dream job or not, like happiness is so much like when you are fueled with joy for what you're doing. And this is something, I've crossed a barrier with, I've in my own mind, I've considered working, just for money, just doing real estate and even getting my mortgage license. And I couldn't do it at the end of the day. It's like, no, I love healing work. I love teaching. I love being with people. I love the idea of, the noble idea of making this world a little bit better somehow by teaching, by healing, by contributing to the world. And I think that fuels happiness more than anything. At least that's what my near-death experience has shown me, is that when you do what you're naturally good at, and you are naturally good at healing, like you're to watch you in action, I know that you found your purpose. You create more joy, and the outside world begins to shift the more in touch you are with your true essence. So I know that that's challenging for people because people want, something right now, but I look back in time, and if I had become a lawyer instead of having that near-death experience, I know, Allison, that my ego would have been in control, and I would have bought a lot of things to prove to my family how smart I am and how worthy I am and how, great I am and I'm better than them because I have all this money, and they wouldn't have even cared. Like, at the end of the day, so what would I have been doing that for? Nothing other than my own ego and my own, that would have been a really sad path in some ways, because it wouldn't have led to happiness.
Well, and I think that's why it's hard for, us near-deathers to go from that, because like our ego totally died when we died. I mean, it didn't totally die, but a lot of people don't have that visceral experience of being just an energy of love. And once you have that peak experience, then you're completely changed. Once you stretch yourself, like you can't unstretch. I mean, I guess you could, but you'd be really miserable. But you can't unsee, you can't unfeel something. And so it's like we can't even go there because there's no gas there, because that has been deflated. But a lot of human beings, we have an ego. An ego is good. A good ego is good. But going into egotism, or just doing something to prove, like that never leads to fulfillment. But here's the thing is that, we know, like as a soul, we have, like, people have desires and, things they want to accomplish in this lifetime, and we're all naturally drawn. But like, Trisha, what if you were like an artist, and like this was like your, and I'm getting goosebumps right now, your spiritual life purpose was to write and to create, but you were born into a family that that was just science, and like really thought that was not encouraged, but this was just a natural drawing, that you had too. So you could internalize the parents' beliefs and like suppress your purpose and what lights you up, and that will create issues, that will create, disease in some level. And I really do feel like if you don't live your purpose or what lights you up, it really does dim your life force, and also like affects everything. But here's the thing is that you can have all of these dreams and desires, but your traumas, your programs on society, it's not possible, it's not allowed. We're a pretty free society, but, a lot of people are afraid of what people will think. And that stops people from talking to other people, going after their dreams. Guys, a lot of fears stop people. Some fears are just completely fake. But the thing is that why are people afraid of what other people will think? Well, it's different for different people, but maybe maybe they didn't get the love they wanted as a child. And so, they, outsourced that happiness because that wasn't internalized to helping people or pleasing people. Or, there's many different ways. So what happens is that, we replay what we were programmed. And that is completely, let's normalize that. Let's not shame ourselves. We all do it. And so we are always manifesting. Mostly we're manifesting unconsciously. And sometimes you're happy with those. Like if you were born in a family that had no money blocks and like had a great relationship with money, and you just got programmed and you went off and made a lot of money, you don't have money blocks. You don't have issues manifesting it. But, if you came from another household that didn't have that, then you would have some limiting beliefs, because you hadn't had a lived experience of abundance or plenty of money. And so you might not even think it's possible. And then there's also the cultural programming, of that culture. Maybe people are like, oh, being rich is XYZ. So a lot of times we have these unconscious beliefs. Oh, rich people are amazing or generous, or maybe you had a bad experience. And so you take that when you're younger because you're just absorbing the world and trying to figure out how the world works. So you create your own paradigm, your own map, and then you go forward in adulthood. And that map then is a vibration. It's also a map for you that you're unconsciously reacting to and deciding in your life and interpreting the stimulus coming in and what you think of the world going out, and thus you're manifesting. So why does one person manifest one thing and the other person doesn't? It's their paradigm and it's their unhealed wounds. So some people have a hard time with loving themselves, other it's money. So it's really individualistic. But what I found with doing a lot of deep healing work is it's really not about the money. It's really about like the deep wounds, and also, even like in spiritual contracts, also generational trauma that we're operating on, our unhealed traumas, and also the programs that helped our families survive are still active on an unconscious level. So what is cool is that for the first time, I think in a long time in history, maybe ever, your healing affects your children, your bloodline. Because when you release that, it shifts your paradigm, and also we are all connected. So it vibrates outwards. So it is, I feel like, what is the manifestation of a trauma survivor, being healed? I think it's feeling safe in their body, feeling happy, and being able to express themselves and live the life they want. Unhealed trauma, unhealed core wounds, abandonment, rejection, injustice, humiliation, those things get really sticky in our psyche and our soul. And they just, regret, resentment, all of these things, unhealed trauma, they just, really occupy our brain and really, take over our life. And you don't even have to try, it just does it, right? This programming.
So I have a question. Before theta healing, so one thing I would do is I'm an observer of human beings. And when someone came from a household where they had a lot of money, or they were really taken care of and loved as a kid, I'd observe how they interact in the world, both energetically and realistically. And there's like a lot of self-worth and a lot of, I'm deserving of this. And, just this, well, of course you're going to help me. Of course I'm going to get a better deal. Like there's a lot of belief that, that is
yeah, it was their
and so I try to manifest it through using that same energy, and it worked a little, like you can energetically feel. Yeah.
You can fake it, but guess what? Here's the thing. And this is what, you can't fake your frequency. You can't, at some point, your core wound is going to rear its ugly head, and maybe you'll sabotage that, you manifest that relationship. But if you haven't dealt and done the deep work and had that shift in your brain, heart, mind, and body, if you still don't love yourself, you'll somehow sabotage it or provoke the other person or do something, most likely on an unconscious level, guys, because most of this is unconscious and you don't know that you're playing a part of it. And because we push away things we're not worthy of, if we don't love ourselves, and if we don't feel worthy, or if we feel like people are going to abandon us, we're going to have that frequency and that fear, and fears, like that gets magnetized, and then that gets all consuming. And then you'll probably behave in such a way where you might push the other person away, but your heart, you want it. So it's like, you can go through the actions, you can do the visualizations, you can, read The Secret, you can do all this stuff. But if you don't fundamentally have a lived experience in your body, in your feelings, in your heart, not an intellectual, yes, I love myself, but within your heart, you're like, you can't lie. And guys, everyone is intuitive and psychic and playing with your energy. It's usually on an unconscious level, but they're reacting. And here's the thing, your reaction to something is also an indicator of your programming and also your unhealed wounds. So if someone, when I was still healing from trauma, and guys, trauma survivors are the most magnificent, people. They're, amazing, but, they have a little bit of an uphill battle. I had a definite uphill battle. And so, I would be good. And then, like I'd have a flashback or a memory come up and I would feel those feelings, and it was like on repeat. And so until I healed that on very many levels, I had that coming up. And so a lot of people have these traumas, and so they get stuck, or they'll be good, they'll sabotage it, they'll start it, they'll convince themselves, or our programming and our old story is always pulling us back. And that's energy. But guys, this is neuroscience is starting to confirm this. This is, brain, like our neurons and pathways that you keep on practicing, just keep on getting better and better. And they fire and fire. So you can consciously reprogram, like Trisha, like you're like, without doing the deep inner work, because you didn't have theta healing or that deep tool to like really shift on a deep level. You did those, you emulated it, and you're like, yeah, you got it. But like it on a fundamental level, like you probably didn't feel, there's probably some unconscious things that it wasn't for you. And so it, like, then you would, unconsciously, like, probably sabotage yourself on some level or not feel worthy, even though we're, like we know from our NDE that we're all worthy, we're all loved, we're all that. So why do some people not? It's the programming, and it's also like, the decision also to shift, right? And that you do have power. I was going to say something else. I
have a question from someone live. What's the difference between doing theta healing on yourself and then, once you've learned it, and having someone else do it for you?
So so I teach both. So in theta healing, I think it's such a good skill set to be able to heal yourself. Why, guys? Waking up and becoming a conscious manifestor, a conscious creator, is you being able to be aware of why you do what you do. And so in theta healing, this gets revealed. And with that said, sometimes things are so close to your identity, it's like you don't even see them as programs because they're such a core part of who you are, or it's a blind spot. How it's like, like we've had, like maybe you have a friend and you're like, wow, like, she has this, it's so much easier for us to look outside and see objectively. Why? Because we're not emotionally, our brain is not emotionally embedded in that identity. And so we can just see it for what it is. So self-healing, I do a lot of self-healing on myself. And I also find it valuable to have someone else. Why? Because they have a different vibration and their objective. And so, and also for the big things, especially relationship trauma, you need probably someone to help you. Why? Because you can't heal in isolation. Most trauma, is how people responded around you, to wounds, to needs. And so in a therapeutic relationship, that love and that presence is a way for you to receive that from someone else, and also and for them to guide you, right? Because I wish, I was clueless, I didn't know, how to heal myself. So I kind of, I would do some good stuff and then I would get in my own way. And sometimes it's so much easier for someone to really see the heart of the issue or what is really going on. And when you practice, and the more you practice a skill, and theta healing is a skill, the better and more you master it. And so, a master or someone who's been doing this, that's really skilled, that have put in the hours and have the gift, can pretty much probably scan you and see something and shift it. Whereas it probably would have taken someone who's just new at this, like probably 10 years to figure it out. And literally when you change a belief, especially a deep core wound, like literally your body shifts, your mood shifts, and like energetically, like if you think about that, that changes someone's life, like their trajectory. So your past, future, and present are all, there is no past, there is no future. It's all just now, a series of nows. But what happened to you programmed you. That affects how you view the present, and it also affects how you view the future. Change your programming. I don't know if you've had this experience, Trisha, but after you've healed a lot of pain and trauma, like literally you see yourself different, like completely different. And then you see the past in a different light because you don't have that weight of it. And also you can see differently and clearly. So really a change of perspective of yourself is a change of, destiny and also frequency.
Oh, yeah.
And you can't, isn't that, I mean, that, guys, that blew my mind. I mean, I was like, wait, like, oh, I really don't have an issue with that person. Oh, that issue with that person was really my own unhealed trauma, and guys, and remember, guys, we're attracted to people energetically by our wounds and also by, our light. And a lot of times, like, especially with love, especially when we're younger, if we've had some, dysfunctional aspects, you find someone who kind of like works with your wound. And so if you were abused or neglected, then that feels like home. And you're like, why do I keep on attracting, or, these guys, where are the good guys? Well, first of all, your programming can't see the good guys because you're programmed to like, this is what love looks like, even though it's distorted and dysfunctional, you don't know that. And so like, that's what fits. It's like, it fits together. So when you start healing, then a healed inner self then will find like that behavior, like completely, it doesn't feel at home because you healed it and it doesn't work with you.
Yeah, I've found the near-death experience taught me a lot about love and accepting love from Creator. And I'll say like that makes a lot of sense with Theta healing too, that, throughout life, I could connect to God, and that was always healing and helpful. But what I couldn't do is change some of those programs, because no matter what I did, I just was like still back up against a wall, with certain issues. And what I've found is that I know what self-love is, and I knew before Theta healing, but now it's like I'm falling in love with myself in a different way, like in not a narcissistic way, but in a like, oh, I really want to take care of myself. And oh no, I don't want to be around that energy. That's not good for me, that kind of thing.
So here, it's the thing is that like, and I'm just getting like goosebumps all over, guys, like narcissists they actually hate themselves. And that's why they behave so, it is, I mean, it looks like they're grandiose, but what is really deeply in there is a horrible, deep core wound, or like someone who's very entitled and had been very spoiled. But guess what? They're not happy. They aren't happy. And they're not at peace with themselves, and they're not at peace with others. And so they're creating inner suffering and outer suffering. And you know what? And the thing is like with you, just like you, Trisha, like I had that experience of that unconditional love and I could connect to it, but I was very confused. Like I could not release this fear, like, of being attacked or being, run over. Like, I'm like, objectively, I'm like, I'm a smart girl. I'm like, I am not in Mexico. I survived the trauma, but like my neurological system and my subconscious and my brain, whose job is to keep me safe at all costs, was like overreacting. And I would have like nightmares, if someone, got too close to me, for like, a week. And I'm like, you know what, like, I suffered a lot, and now I'm suffering with the imprint of trauma, because then the trauma imprints our subconscious in such a way that like it kind of imprisons you a little bit in that. And that to me, I was like, I need freedom from this. And I spent so much money trying to figure out what would work. And I knew, I couldn't yoga out my trauma. I mean, yoga helped me a lot. But those realities within myself, like I could not get away from. Like I had to transform them and heal them. So for example, guys, like what I see with like people manifesting who are not doing the deep inner work or not doing theta healing, it's like they'll be like, oh, like they'll say an affirmation like I'm healed, or like, you know, like visualizing their body being healed, or maybe money being in the bank, or them getting their love. But then they open up their eyes and then they see, you know, wait, my bank account's low, and or my, you know, my leg is not healing and it hasn't healed in a year. And then you get discouraged because you believe the 3D, the physical, or what's already manifested more than you believe, you know, the energetic, and also the program of I am healed, or, you know, I will heal. And that vision is not anchored. You don't believe it. The past experience is more believable, and the future experience, or the present reality, is more believable than your dream, your vision. And so what theta healing does is it goes in there and it reprograms. And so you get this feeling, you guys, because you have to have that feeling. You know, if you don't have that feeling of worthiness or of self-love, a lot of people are like, I've never felt that ever. So how do you do that? Well, in theta healing, we download it and you feel it. And the thing is that, you know, I think that Trisha, like, I feel like you have this experience too, is like, we're all here to love and be loved. But what gets in the way? Our survival programs, our programs, our dysfunctional family patterns that are, you know, passed down, and we just keep on repeating it. And it's really not from a whole loved space. Some are, but some aren't. And so it's like, how do we like shift that? And so the individual work and healing work coming from a very embodied space really shifts your physiology. Like it changes your body, it changes your hormones, because you're no longer in fight or flight. And guys, like you can't consciously control like, oh, I need my survival mechanisms, I'm going to go into a panic attack, or, oh, like, you know, I'm not going to have fear about this, guys, because this is already programmed in, you know, the evolution of our brain. This is based in neuroscience, and it's reacting before you can consciously choose it. So I think that's where it is people get confused, is that they're like, they think they're in control, or their conscious brain is, but, you know, a lot of it isn't. It's already predetermined. And so where do you get freedom, and how can we heal? And that's in theta, and that's through repetition. That's through believing, telling yourself, being around an environment of people that are like, I did it. You know, it's kind of like when I said to you, I was like, oh, healing of physical pain is like the easiest thing on this planet. You're like, what? And I was like, yeah, just
right. Different like, paradigm.
You're like, what? And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, you know, like, guys, like I had like no cartilage in my knee. That took me 2 months to heal. It's like no big deal. Like it actually is. I mean, I say everything is healable, but like, I mean, because I have such a, and like other people that are watching this, you guys, I might be triggering your programs, and you might, your programs and judgments might be like, oh, she's full of shit, blah, blah, blah. Guys, like I could bring up all the evidence, but if your programs would like still sometimes reject that, you know? And so isn't it so much fun, Trisha, because like you really get to really understand what's going on in your consciousness. You start to see what you didn't see before, and then you can actually consciously create and be like, you're not hijacked by your programs or your traumas or your feelings of inadequacy. You know, you're not controlled by that. So you get to declare. I also think, you know, just, you know, it's like if you have a self-love aspect, you're not going to eat well. You're going to not feel like you deserve, you know, love, you know, your own love, or, you know, other people's loves. It's going to be harder to motivate yourself to do good things. You know, there's all of these different things, and it's a snowball effect, and it has nothing to do with the truth, because you are so worthy of love. But me telling you that, and then like Trisha, like us telling people that they are all loved, that doesn't change anything for them. Like they might get,
you have to experience it. And this is a comment from someone, and maybe we could start, or when we get to the end of this conversation, do a healing around this, because this really kind of touches me. One woman says, I would love to heal my low self-esteem from a lot of verbal abuse from my mom. She even has brain cancer and told me I was a loser and always will be, just deep hurt. That's deep stuff.
So like with that, first of all, I'm just sending just so much love to everyone. Everyone that's watching this, and just, sending this frequency of unconditional love, that you receive it, that it surrounds you. And, with that is that's coming from a wounded space. She obviously has had trauma, and her own self-hatred was projected. And this happens, your unhealed wounds as a parent or as a person will get projected out on people. Are you a bad person? Does she? No, but it's the unhealed trauma and the unawareness. You unintentionally hurt yourself and others, even if you don't want to. So I had mom issues. I had some mom trauma. I have an amazing mom, but I had some mom trauma. And I have actually a protocol that really releases all of the programming, because just because you're older and she's older, and maybe there's a lot of parents that heal, but like with kids, it's still active. That imprint from that abuse, and guys, verbal abuse is very insidious. It is just as damaging, maybe even more than physical, because it hurts your spirit. It breaks your spirit. And so that imprint is in your brain. That program, I'm bad, I'm not good enough, is, as many, self-help books you read, that's not going to change. But it is possible to reprogram yourself, and through Theta, through, meditation, through all these different self-healing. But Theta, if you get yourself in Theta and do Theta healing, like, you can get shifts like really quick. And guys, you have to desire to want to change. You have to have some kind of inner fire, because I can't give that to you. I can help people, I can train people, but there are some people that are just like, I'm going to heal. There's something inside me. I know where does that come from? I don't know. I've known some people who've come from horrific experiences from people, but they have just some fire that just is drawing them to healing. And a lot of healers, become wounded to healed healers, to help people, because they have the lived experience of doing it. So they have a vast knowledge. But with her, if you want to reach out, I have all of my info. I have a protocol that I do, and it literally, I've done it for thousands of people, especially with their parents, because we have a deep, programming, and also deep wounding from our attachment figures, because that's how we think about ourselves. We internalize that, and that's how we unconsciously feel about the world and other men and women. So that's like kind of our like blueprint. And so, maybe I've had instances where I've had clients that their mom, they had a big transformation, but it's like kind of like those programs are already active. And so it's like that doesn't change. So what we do is we go in and we heal it. And I've had some amazing stories. I had amazing transformation with my mom, because I couldn't let go of this anger and this of what she did, even though I desired to. But like, for instance, I did and it depending on how bad the trauma and how much it's built up, it can take from an hour to like, I had one person that they had extensive, abuse, and it took like four hours, but it can do that. And so what's the result, Trisha? What is the result? The result is that you don't get triggered. You can witness someone, saying that thing, saying, a negative thing, and you're like, well, that's their perspective. I know that I'm worthy. If you have a worthiness issue and someone critiques you and you're like, you like cry, or this used to be me, or you feel like you're like not good enough, it triggers that wound. Is it that person? Well, yeah, I mean, kind of, but really it's reflecting the deeper work you need to do. Because it's kind of like if someone's just comment can really hurt you, obviously there's a wound there that needs healing, right? I hope that makes sense. Is that translating?
It does. It does. And people felt the love. And I think that one of the interesting things about this idea of not getting triggered, I didn't think it was possible, but I have reached a place in my life where it is so possible. Like I've never been really triggered by students, because in that role, I'm there to help them. And of course they're learning and let me help them learn. Right. But in my own personal life, friends, family, loved ones, people close to me, I can get triggered. And now I look and I stop and I think like, oh, what's that unhealed wound? Do I want to go there with this person, or do I want to just remove myself for a while? Like I have space and I don't get triggered.
So let's get like, like in the thick of it, like getting out of this like hypothetical stuff. And like, let's get into like our lived experience, or if someone, has something that they want to ask about or something, so here's the thing is coming from a trauma-informed perspective, what I do not like about manifestation, law of attraction, law of assumption, like all of these things is that a lot of them aren't trauma-informed. And so, trauma survivors, if you've been abused or shamed, like that treatment is awful. You never deserve that. However, they're not just like, what I find is that they don't know how to, they will sometimes unintentionally hurt a trauma survivor, or, they're not trauma informed. And so they don't understand, like, this person is not addicted to stress, or this person is getting a benefit from XYZ. No, it's just that their survival self, their amygdala is being hijacked and literally shifting their consciousness, and guess what? That, guys, your triggers, you are not choosing that. That's your program. That's your brain. There is a solution, and that's doing the theta healing work and doing the deeper healing stuff into where when you do, so for example, like my mom would say something, or, she would say a comment, and when I wasn't healed and when I didn't heal that wound, it would deeply hurt my heart. And so I have always been a sensitive person, but there's a sensing, and then there's like a wound that's open, and someone if like you had a cut on your skin or a broken arm and someone just, did that, if you were healed, you'd be like, whatever. But hey guys, who's had like an open wound and someone, hey, what's up? You're like, fuck, you're like, you can hardly, it hurts more. So emotional wounds are like physical wounds. The thing is that us as people identify with our wounds and we internalize it and we think it's true. So, and that is very powerful. And we identify, and then we don't think it's going to change. Everything's always changing if we allow it, if we have the belief system. So I guess, like, for example, after I did a clearing with my mom, a protocol, and this is one of my most requested sessions with the parents, like healing a wound. I couldn't be around my mom without internally being triggered. I can control it. I wouldn't start crying, or, some people have that fight, flight, I could control it, but it wasn't pleasant. And therefore, I had a hard time being around it. And guys, none of us want to feel like shit. No one wants to be triggered. So, it's very uncomfortable. But once I did the deep healing around myself and really completed that learning with my mom, released, the shock and trauma and the internalized belief from that wounding, I could be around her and she could say something in the past that would have triggered me. And I was like, oh, whatever. Internally, I'm like, it didn't affect me. Why? Because I had deeply healed that part of me that was open, that wound. And so I think though, I don't know if you had this, Trisha, though, being a patient and being a trauma survivor, I'm a big advocate for people. And, you always compassion, right? And so when I was healing, there's a lot of people that were, were frustrated with me. They were like, well, why can't you just get over that? And I was like, hey, no one wants my healing more than me, but I can't consciously control it. So there's a lot of misinformation and people are just freaking ignorant around how trauma, affects your brain, affects your whole nervous system, and how that's connected to every chronic disease, also like every feeling of low self-esteem. So people are judgy, right? Let's just call it what it is. And so it's just like that judgment, shame, that's not conclusive. That is not the energy of healing. Always compassion. But here's the thing, Trisha, if you were never shown compassion as a little girl and you were abused, how can you create that within yourself? You can't. Like maybe you had like a loving teacher, and maybe you can somewhat feel that and internalize it and grow from it. But sometimes the brain is so starved for love because they were neglected, or there's all these different things. The child thinks it's, if they were good enough or if they were different, then, their parents would have behaved differently. They turn on the identity of I'm unworthy, unlovable, because their parents didn't show up for them in a way. And it could be in a small way, or it could be in a big way, like literal, like years of abuse. It doesn't matter. That was implanted, that was downloaded during a theta state, and they internalize that. And when they take that, then they go off into the world, and maybe they want to draw or go and do this, but they're like, they have this like, fear come up, or this, oh, I just don't feel like it. That's a program,
Yes. And I want to add something to this. The idea of not being able to heal and looking out at society. And I know sometimes people say things like, I'm too old to heal, or I'm already so far, into debt, or I'm, that things look bleak for people at times. And so if you could talk a little bit to that, and then maybe do a healing around trauma, because there's so much of it. One thing I realized teaching in classrooms is that there were so many students who hadn't been told a good thing about themselves in classes. They're always told how to do something differently. And so a lot of times just that compassion or that kindness or pointing out what people did well made such a huge impact, because it was maybe the first time a junior high student in some cases had anyone tell them something, nice, other than maybe about their appearance or something they did for someone else, but not, their intrinsic value.
Well, here's the thing, guys. It's like a virus, and it's a frequency, criticism, hatred. That is not who we are. Trisha and I know that is learned behavior that's programmed. Kids don't come out hating, people of different races, different genders. This is all belief systems, and God and love is beyond all belief systems, and it's who we are, and it's what separates us and the judgment from it. And so I guess it is a belief system. I'm too old for love. I'm too old to heal. I'm too far gone. No, you're not. Shoot, I was dead. I was dead. And then I came back, and then they were like, oh, just be happy that you are alive. No, I'm not going to be happy I'm alive. I mean, I'll try to be, but no, I am worthy and deserving, and I can heal. Well, there's no one out there that's done it. Okay, well, then I'll do it. And once you see someone who's done the impossible, like hopefully, I can't control how you guys perceive me, but hopefully I've shared that, like, if I can do it, anyone can do it. I've just kind of cracked the code, because I've been, it'll be 25 years. I've been cracking the code of why I was healing, why I wasn't, what worked, what didn't. And also I've been healing people for 20 years too. So I can really see, on a very deep level, what is the thing that is really, holding this person back. And usually it's many different things. It's identity, it's our core identity, if I could give, the listeners, I love watching and holding space for transformation and watching people heal in real time. I really think that there is no book that can really do that. We heal in environments that are healing, and then we can entrain that in our system. And we need to be around healing people and people that help us and guide us how to heal. Your whole life will change. And I would love if everyone would take a healing class with me. However, and you guys get a discount if you guys sign up, but is really to identify with the healed version of you and realize that anything is possible through that love, and to really have that sacred space that it is, that faith and that love, that anything is possible and that you're always guided. But, I think, Trisha, after you've done, like a couple classes, then you don't realize until you're in the classes doing the work, how much stuff is built up, because it's like, like that amazing being that wrote that, like, she is so beautiful. I can feel her light, her consciousness, that spark of light that is the real truth of who she is. She is not the programming. She is not the, negative thoughts in her head. She's not the identity that, the world has impressed and told her she is. But however, like how the subconscious and our brain works, we create that, we see that, and we can't stop out of that paradigm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. And, part of that inner happiness is community as well. And I think you experience community in your classes, the Theta healing community, and showing up when I can for the groups is great. And people who are interested in healing and, do this in different ways, it's a wonderful community. It's a great community. Of course, the near-death experience community is great, but there's something about healing that's just extra special, because we get to that point where we get to practice, and you let us practice on each other, and we see shifts with one another. And we need community. Like you said, we don't heal alone at times. And we also need that inner joy. I mean, I feel like joy is something that the near-death experience did teach me, how to be joyful in many different ways that I wasn't before. But yet I was aware, even in those first moments when I was coming back to my body, that I was coming back to my programs, because it was it was painful. It was like, oh no, I'm back in this body with all her experiences and everything. Yeah. And I even called myself in the third person, because I was greater than this.
Because it's like, we know like that we're not. And so it's like, I think I'm going to try to do a drawing class, because I get these images like when I'm scanning people, and when I'm looking at someone on an energetic, like intuitive level, like I see their inner reality. And like objectively, like, for example, you can see someone who's very physically, attractive, but they're programming, because a lot of emotional trauma, guys, creates self-hatred, and it distorts how we see ourselves. And so like certain people can just think that they're awful or horrible, even though the objective reality is extremely different. That's like guys, when you're like, okay, this external reality, like I'm smart, I got good grades, or, there's something objective, and you still have this feeling of like, it doesn't feel congruent. That's where the emotional wounding is. But I was going back to like, we're this light, this consciousness. So like when we die, our body like stays here, but our light goes, up into that frequency. But like when we come into this, like we bring our soul that has all of our information of all. I experienced that I was reincarnated. That might not be someone's belief system, but so I was bringing that in with my body. But then this body, I always call it my cool, meat suit, spiritual vessel, or my like physical vessel. But this is not who I am. With that said, though, I have DNA from all of my parents and my ancestors, and those have programs, all of these things. And the cool thing is that we can sense it and feel it. And guess what? We can change our genetics. We can change the frequency of the programs. We can shift our body. I think that's the biggest thing for, like, I think mind-blowing, paradigm-blowing thing is that when you change the energy around and your perception, your whole body changes. And you have to have that feeling to hold that, because guess what, guys? If you're manifesting for a healing, and your 3D reality is like not reflecting like that your bone is healed, you have to have a vision that's stronger than the past, and a belief system that's stronger than the past, and the physical reality, because this is just a reflection of where you're at now. But what happens is people aren't aware of that. So then they look, or they see like, oh, that person rejected me, I'll never have love, just like I've never had love all in the past. And then, or like, see, I'm still hurt, and then they give up. So one of the things that, especially since I had such extensive physical injuries of my whole left side, and, just also a lot of, psychological trauma, like, it didn't happen overnight, but when I plugged into Theta healing, it happened pretty quickly. But I'm very, very persistent. And especially since I've tried so many things, when I found Theta healing, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to run with this, because I deserve this healing. I deserve this freedom, because no one could, my brain could not heal my subconscious and my emotional and my heart. But going into this in that frequency, it did. And I think that is the biggest thing, because we're moving from Newtonian physics that, just in matter, and we're going into like more the quantum energetic, that, your energy and the energy within yourself shifts the physical reality, sometimes slow, sometimes fast, but that's the new way of shifting things. And, some people like might be like, oh, I don't believe that. Oh, okay, well, that's fine, because if you're not even willing to, to try it on, then you're going to confirm your beliefs that you can't heal, right?
Yes. But I see that all the time, where there's like confirmation bias in a way, like people energetically attract what they believe so many times.
So it's kind of like, it's so interesting, but like we all have that experience. You're like, okay, I had this healing. And usually there's many different layers. So you have to reprogram and energetically download, oh, I'm worthy of this. So you have the feeling, you have the belief. And in Theta healing, we do muscle testing to objectively confirm if a belief is held, because a belief is just a belief, but that's been practiced, and a thought that's been practiced, and then you believe it. And then, if you have trauma, like that was your reality. So for example, like I was run over, there was trauma. I wasn't safe. Like that literally was my reality. And okay, here, like 5 years later, I was in my room and I still didn't feel safe. So the objective reality, I was like, I didn't feel safe, because that trauma has this vibration, and also my brain is like hyper alert because there was that insult. So here's the thing, though, that gets tricky is that, we have to release that imprint of the trauma, and then we have to download. I had to download I'm safe, and guess what? I had some resistance against that. Why? Because like my reality up to that point, I could die at any point. Someone could hurt me. Okay, well, so I was very resistant, because I was like, your survival, your brain will block anything that might threaten its, pain and survival. So what does that look like? It means then you might see danger where there's not danger. And then what happens, guys, is okay, and this is, you don't choose this. This just happens in your brain. And then what happens is that this is seen in your eyes, your ears, all of that. It activates your fight or flight. And then that, guys, on a brain base, that kind of shifts your brain where you can't really be as objective. And so then you see reality different. So literally, like this person can be in a safe environment with a safe, loving person, and their brain gets hijacked or something. Maybe like they get scared, or, I don't know. Maybe they're in a loving relationship, and someone says a word, or, mirrors what their parents did. And then they just completely they project, and they react as if the old program was real. So that's where the self-awareness and practice of pausing and then going back to yourself, like what is not healed, that my old story is coming up. Okay, what healing do I need to do? What wound do I need to heal so, I feel safe, or where I feel worthy? Because when you're completely healed and aligned, like things that external people say or do don't really sway you as much, because you embodied it,
And it's so interesting for me. Theta healing brought together a lot of different healing modalities. I've had great healings, and I talk about this with past life regressions. I do believe in past lives and have memories of some of them. And then we also run into people a lot of times who there's some karmic bonds with them. It's not, I think people think it's romantic or something, but I'm a really old soul. I run into people all the time that I know. I mean, I've been here, I think, since the beginning, early man days, and so there's all kind of karma that's unresolved with people, but I've had to actually reprogram myself that it can be positive, because sometimes people have vendettas against you, from the past, or they pose as like a friend, but they, are not. So like I'm at this place where that kind of healing from the past lives is important, but theta healing brings it all together. And I don't have much time. So if we're going to do a theta healing, we have to do it. And I do want to tell everyone this. I'll keep this video up and you can rewatch it, because I didn't do a very good job of marketing. I've been so busy, but please do watch it and look at the code below. If you would like to take a course with Allison, you can use my coupon code for this. And I have benefited from it. I think even if you don't want to work as a healer and you just want to take a beginning course, step in, heal yourself. It's amazing work.
It is. It literally will shift so many things. And I'm so excited to help people, because, it's the coolest thing for people to wake up to the truth of who they are, because most people are identified that, oh, I am this. And then they're like, wait, I'm not this. This is who I am. And their perception changes, and like their whole world opens up, like all these cool things happen. And it's so rewarding. Yes. So also, anyone reach out to me, send me comments. I love getting feedback, questions, because I've been living this for a long time, since my NDE. So I love having feedback or questions, so I can then create videos or other things to help you guys. I would love that.
So there's quite a few people listening. If you want to tune into just the people who really have deep trauma, if you want to end this with just a short demonstration of childhood trauma.
So what I want to do is, how much time do we have? Because I'm going to give them some downloads, but I want to share with them that these downloads will open up and they'll feel it energetically, but it doesn't delete. I'm going to release some, reset their nervous systems. I'm going to command some things, but maybe we should do a follow-up on just an example belief work session or something on how it kind of looks, to demystify it.
Yeah. Maybe we'll go to Facebook or do it, live somewhere else. Yeah, cool. All right. Yeah. So a lot of people have early childhood trauma.
Okay. So one of the things, so with everyone that's watching live, and then also in the recording, if you want the download or if you want the healing, you have to say yes, because we honor sovereignty and free will and theta healing. And so you just say yes out loud and you'll be able to receive it. These are downloads, and we're going to release and reset things. The deeper theta healing work really gets and heals the core wounds, which I feel everyone is worthy and deserving to do. And so just find a theta healer, come to me, or take a training, because you are so worth your healing and your own love and to receive it. So I'm just going to tune in, and I'm just going to lead us and ground and just connect to that energy. So I'm going to just send out just unconditional love to everyone that is feeling, that is listening to this, and then is listening to the recording. So I'm just going to have Creator just download unconditional love through every cell of your body, that you feel that within your heart. And if you guys would like an activation just of that heart, that light within your heart, that you know that there is that light, that love within your heart that's always been there, just say yes. And then putting your hand on your heart and just acknowledging and sending love to yourself. What an amazing heart you have. Validating that heart, surrounding it with love, and then finding that light within that heart, and then sending that energy all the way down into Mother Earth, connecting with the healing nature of the ocean, the ground. The earth is so healing. It has a frequency, the Schumann resonance, that heals. So pulling up that energy, that free healing from Mother Earth, feeling that going all the way up through your legs, and then going through your chakras. So seeing your whole body light up and send so much love to your amazing body. We're going to pause at the heart space and take a deep breath in, expanding through your heart. And then exhaling, just letting go of any of the worries, the stresses, just releasing them. And then feeling that unconditional love, activating your throat chakra, your expression, your truth. And then feeling this activate your third eye, your center of knowing, spiritual knowing, intuitive abilities. And then if you would like, say yes, if you guys would like the feeling and the healing of just balancing your brain and downloading safety and relaxation to your brain, that it is safe in this moment, that it is loved in this moment, and just balancing it, releasing any, there you go, I felt that. And then looking up through your crown chakra and seeing this ball of white light, and you're going to put yourself in that ball of white light. And we're going to go up. So we're going to go up through the beautiful day sky, crossing over Earth's atmosphere. So now you feel these golden and these white lights moving through you and beyond you, just feeling lighter and lighter, going higher and higher. And then going through these rainbow-like colors. These are the different laws, floating beautifully through that. And then you enter into the law of compassion. And it's this jelly-like substance, and just feeling all of this compassion around you and taking more than you need. There's abundant amount of compassion, and you are so worthy. So just allowing that in your spirit, in your body, and then looking up and seeing this bright, tingly white light of unconditional love, and going up higher and higher. And soon that white light's all around you, and you step in and you're on this plane of just pure love, pure creation. This is where people go, where after we die, this unconditional love, this is our true nature. So I'm going to do some downloads, and if you would like it, just say yes. So would you like to know what it feels like? The feeling of, I love myself, the feeling within your heart that you are worthy. I am worthy. I am lovable. And I love myself. So just downloading that frequency. And can I, if you would like this, say yes. Would you like to have Creator just release just any excess stress or, fear from the collective that you've picked up in your field or mind or body from COVID? Can I just send a healing, releasing any fear from COVID and sending it up to the light? Would you guys like to know what it feels like, the feeling and the belief of I am abundant? I know the feeling of feeling abundant within myself. There you go. And then would you guys like to know the feeling of compassion? That it is safe for you to have love and compassion for yourself, and you know how to feel that. And then can we just download, I feel like I'm gonna have Creator just, if you would like your chakras to get extra energy and be aligned, I'm gonna command that. So Creator of all that is, it's commanded to align all, whoever's listening, their chakras. So aligning and empowering them, downloading what that feels like, balance. There you go. And then also, can I download the feeling and the belief that everything and anything is possible through that unconditional love, through connecting to your soul, your power. There you go. And also we're going to send, do I have permission to send unconditional love to any and all times you felt abandoned, rejected, and can we send a frequency in the past, and just releasing that shock, pain, and trauma, and downloading to your inner child that they are so worthy, that they are inherently worthy and lovable and full of love. So we're going to command that any and all time you felt rejected or abandoned at any time and you needed love and it wasn't there, we're going to send it energetically through all the cells of your body right now, and releasing that shock, pain, or trauma on the energetic level and sending it up to the light. And then we're gonna just close and just fill your heart up with unconditional love in and around it. And that this is always there for you. It's always available. And do I have permission to fill your auras with this light, this energy, this hope? There you go. And I'm just going to fill you up. Perfect. Also, the last one, the divine wanted me to download, that you guys remember that you are part of this divine frequency, that you have that feeling, that experience within your body, that there's so much to you and such amazing, that you are inherently just this light. There you go. Thank you. Perfect. And also that you are worthy of healing, that healing is within you, and that you are worthy of it. You know how to, you are guided. There you go. Perfect. Thank you. Perfect.
Well, thank you, Allison. And I have to go, everyone. So we'll end this, but please do look at the show notes. And I'm going to send this out and leave this up for a while so other people can view it. But look at the show notes for coupon codes for Allison's classes. And I really just thank you for the work that you're doing and the information that you're providing and the healing that you bring to so many lives, including mine. So thank you.
Yeah, well, I love you, and just sending so much love to every human being, and especially the ones that are here listening, and just sending so much love. We're all in this together, and it's a real cool time to be alive, because we're witnessing people miraculously heal, and everyone, the healing, the emotional healing, all of that is all possible. And it's just such a cool journey. And you guys, please reach out and share comments. I love feedback. And I'm going to be doing some videos on YouTube. And so I always love feedback, so I can give you guys what you want as well and answer your questions.
Thank you, Allison. Have a great